Right, so we've not made a video for a good few weeks now, and a lot's changed in the tank as far as what we've got in stock, how big some of the fish are getting, how they're colouring up. So there's loads to show you. We've still got the fry, all the fry is still doing well as well, so we've got the baby fish that are growing, they're eating. But what we're going to do today, we're going to do a water change. I've got a little gadget that's been making water changes a breeze. So I wanted to show you, it's like a little pump which you can buy fairly cheap. So we'll do a water change on the tank and I'll show you how streamlined it makes the process. So these are the three things you're going to need to make things a little bit easier. Especially if you're doing your water changes old school, where you're just using a siphon straight into your sink or a bucket. These just make it so much easier. And it might just be because this is a bigger tank. Doing a siphon might be okay if you've got a smaller system. But the secret weapon you want to get is one of these. So it's like a submersible pump, which is similar to like what you put in a pond and attach a fountain onto. What makes these good when you're doing water changes is the inlet is on the bottom. So you can just drop it in the tank, let it work its magic, and then if you're wanting to drain a tank completely as well, where if you've got a siphon and you're sort of holding it down right to the bottom, or you've got just a power head or something like that, the beauty of this is because it's on the bottom, it sits flat on the bottom of the glass, so it will drain it right the way down as far as you can possibly get without having to get your hands dirty. So it's a really good tool. They're dead cheap. I think this one was about 15 quid on eBay. And I've had a good few uses out of it. It's not conked out on me yet. So I'll show you how easy it is, how it works. What I'm going to do, I'm going to clean the glass first. So it's always good to clean the glass first, because what happens is any crap that you scrape off the sides and off the front will be floating around in your water column. And then when you're emptying the water out, it'll suck a lot of that crap out and dump it in the waste. But this is another little tool I use as well. They're about £1. Wallpaper scraper. It's got a little razor blade on it. You just attach it in and then it just drag it down the glass, and it works a treat. It works better than a sponge or any of these annoying, these little plastic sponges you get. I had one knocking about somewhere where you dip them in they're crap. They do not work. They work, but you're just there for ages trying to get the little bits off, and they don't get the tough algae off the glass. So you're better with some sort of blade. I did put a magnetic glass cleaner on this. What I don't like about magnetic glass cleaners is if you've got a sand bed, if you get any sand stuck behind that, some substrates can be a little bit magnetic. So this is one of them. If you put the magnet near the sand will stick to the magnet. So it must have iron in it or some sort of metal that's in the substrate itself, attracts to the magnet, and then when you're dragging this along your glass, you get little micro scratches and things which you can. I've got a couple on here just from using that once. So I'm really not a fan of magnetic glass cleaners. Yeah, they're all right if you've got a small tank and maybe pebble substrate, something that's a little bit bigger. But if you've got something fine like sand, especially your aragonite sand as well. If any of that gets caught between the magnet and you're dragging it across, it'll just destroy the glass on your tank. What else is good about the blade is it lets you get right down to the seals, where you usually get this annoying brown algae grows and builds up around the edges. So it lets you get right down to it precisely and flick it off. You've just got to be careful when you get nearer to that seam that you're not putting too much pressure on it, because you don't want to nick a little hole in the silicon seam. So you've just got to be more careful when you get nearer to the bottom. And don't neglect the back panels on your glass either, because even though this is painted black, it does build up and start to show eventually. That was a fairly quick job this time around. I'll tell you why. It's because when we get to sort of winter time, we're not getting the sun, because of the timer that the lights are on. They only come on 4 o'clock till 9, and then they have a ramp down time. So because it's winter, the tank doesn't get the morning sun blasting in through the door, cooking the tank and growing algae. And then because it goes dark earlier as well, it has a longer period where there's no sunlight hitting it. So I don't get as much algae growing on the glass this time of year, which makes it really easy to clean. Right, so we've got this plugged in. This one hasn't got a long cable on it, so I'll just run an extension. Always keep an eye on it, especially if you're not running like a loop system on it. But we just park it here. It'll drain the water out. It drains it 10 times faster than if you're siphoning it. So you're not stood around waiting for a long time for your water level to drop. And yeah, it works really quick. But the beauty of it comes when we're actually putting the water back in, and you can use this to refill the tank back up as well. So it's a really good bit of kit. Gets my water changes done so much quicker. Definitely worth investing in. Got a few new fish in the tank, which we'll run through in a separate video. I've had a few injuries, so I've had a fish that's lost an eye, a few colour down, some have gotten a lot bigger, quite a few new additions. The hierarchy's changed, so we've got different dominant fish in here now as they're getting bigger. So we'll run through that in a different video anyway. While waiting for that to drain, I'll give you a quick look at the fry tank, what it's like now. So I think it's been 6 or 7 weeks since we had the female spit in here, and as you can see, they're not growing very quick. Now I give these a sprinkle of food every other day. I won't need to do a water change on it because I do 2 water changes on this a week anyway. It's quite a quick one to do. But I feed these every other day. I give them a sprinkle of the shrimp flakes, which I'll throw in there now, and you can see they love it. But for some reason, they don't seem to be getting any bigger. And I'm not too sure why that is. I'm not familiar with how quickly they grow as fry into bigger fish. But these fish look exactly like they did 5 or 6 weeks ago when they were spat. I mean, they're a little bit bigger. You can see a little bit more detail on them. But if you know much about when we should be expecting these to get a bit more decent size on them, then let me know, because I haven't got a clue. I've tried Googling it, looked at different things. There's all sorts of contradicting information on there based on feeding, what you're feeding, flow in the tank, so, and size of the tank as well. But there's plenty of room in this one for them to grow out in. We've only got about 10-15 fish in there. So if you know much about it, then let me know, but they're not growing very quickly. Right, that looks like the sweet spot for me, so we'll unplug this. What I will say is when you do unplug these, when you're taking them out, switch the power off, because if you just pull this hose off, it's just going to fire water all over your ceiling. I've learned that the hard way. I've done it with a sink before when I've been filling the tank back up, and it absolutely drenches you. So we'll pack this up, roll the hose up, get the water out of here, and then I'll show you the little trick for filling the tank back up as well. Right, so this is the best bit about this, is because first of all, as you can see, my tap, there's no way I can attach a hose adapter onto this, so I used to have a Frankenstein's monster attached to this to fill the tank back up when I was doing water changes. But we've got the pump inside the bucket, we fill the bucket up with the tap, and then it just feeds it back into the tank via the pump that we had in there before that was taking it out. But what's good about this is we can tweak the temperature of the water that's going into the bucket, and I can get a good idea of what we're putting back into the tank so that I'm not shocking any of the fish with freezing cold water, because this time of year, as you all know, when you put your cold water tap on, this is like ice when it comes out. So it gives us the ability to change the temperature and tweak it so that we're not killing our fish when we're doing big water changes especially. But it all just comes out of here, and as you can see, if we've got the tap on too much, it just overflows in the bucket. We don't have to worry about any flooding, any mess. We can just leave it there, let the pump carry on pumping it in, and then obviously we pour all of our quick start, our tap safe into this before we start pumping it back into the tank. The way I've got it working is it goes straight into the sump, and then the return pump is pumping the water back into the tank, and it does it really quick, and as you can see, no mess, no leaks, no drips, just dead straightforward. Really good bit of kit for doing water changes with. Right, there you go, water change complete, taken us about half an hour with the help of this thing. So go and get yourself one, good bit of kit, dead helpful. I'll put some examples of it on the screen so you can have a look at what it's called and where you find them. But not just for water changes. I mean, if you're moving a tank or you're changing what you're going to have in your tank and you need to drain all that water out as well, really good, because it sits on the bottom and drains it all from the bottom like a big suction cup. So really good for that as well, and really cheap as well. And this one's been quite reliable for as long as I've had it anyway. We've got loads of new fish in here, so next time we'll have a deep dive into some of the new additions I've put in. Some suggestions on the comments. I've actually gone out and bought one. Someone mentioned an albino blue dolphin, which is absolutely stunning. So get some species spotlights on the go. We'll have a look at the new stuff in there next time.